Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this HJI virtual open house. Thank you to each one of you that have registered tonight and are joining us for our program. We're really excited to welcome you here this evening. I know from having seen the registration list that we have and will have uh, folks from different parts of the US, but also from around the world. So for those of you that are overseas, that is a little bit late or in the wee hours of the morning, thank you very much for joining us. It's an honor to be able to speak with you about our organization and the programs of study that we have to offer. So to get our program started, just to give you an overview, we have our Dr. Walsh, our president, who will be acting as host this evening, and we have two featured students who will be joining us in conversation with Dr. Walsh. There'll be an opportunity for you to ask any questions you have about their conversation. And then later, I will be speaking a little bit about HJI itself, about our programs of study, and what you could do if you're interested in either enrolling in a degree program or even taking one or two courses. So to begin, I'd like to introduce our president, Dr. Thomas G. Walsh. It's been a pleasure to have Dr. Walsh here at HJI. He is our seventh president. He is a 1979 graduate of HJI, what was then UTS. And after completing his studies here at our graduate school, he went on to earn his PhD at Vanderbilt University. There he specialized in the study of religion and ethics. Since then, he's done many things, including teaching courses at a number of colleges and universities, as well as here at HJI. He just completed teaching a course that he co-taught this past semester with Reverend Damien Duckley, which was entitled Unification Studies Seminar, Ministry and Public Leadership in America. We're looking forward also to the fall semester because in the fall, he will be again offering a course, this time entitled World Religion and Encounter with Christianity. As many of you know of Dr. Walsh. He has worked very closely with the HJI co-founders, Reverend Sun Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Jahan Moon, our true parents, in the establishment and in the leadership of the Universal Peace Federation, where he served until recently, as international chair. Dr. Walsh is also an editor. He has edited over 20 books and publications for the Universal Peace Federation, and he serves currently as the executive director of Dialogue and Alliance, an academic journal which is indexed by the American Theological Library Association. So with that, it's my pleasure to welcome up Dr. Walsh to offer his opening remarks. Dr. Walsh?
Thank you, Dean Boyd. It's a pleasure to be here. I was really enjoying your introduction. I was hoping you'd go on a little bit longer. But, yeah, thank you for that kind introduction. And it's a pleasure to work with you here at HJI. True Mother assigned me to this mission back in October of 2020, when I was still very much in the thick of running the Universal Peace Federation. And it was about a year ago that she said, well, I need you to focus more on HJI now. So I've been able to really get much more engaged. And it's a labor of love indeed. And we're excited about the direction we're headed in. As many of you know, we had a name change that reflected a kind of a new focus out of our kind of seminary era. Maybe many of you know that a lot of the schools in America, some of the Ivy League schools, began as seminaries and emerged over time into colleges with graduate schools and became universities. And really, that's a goal that our founders have always had, even when they moved to New York in the early 1970s, moving up to initially Tarrytown, New York, and Belvedere. They bought some property hoping to build perhaps a university. And but there were difficult zoning issues, and they changed course and bought the property in Berrytown, which has since been sold, and our campus is at 43rd Street. But we have an all-star faculty that we're very proud of, and often we celebrate and honor their accomplishments. Tonight, we're going to focus on the accomplishments of our students, because we have not only great faculty and administrators, but the best students in the world. We just had a graduation on May 25th at 43rd Street that was very well attended. We had as our commencement speaker and honorary doctorate recipient Ambassador Joseph Detrani, who has been the special envoy on behalf of the United States to the six-party talks for many years. He's an active a diplomat working with principals in North Korea, South Korea, China, Russia, and of course the United States and Japan. So he gave a splendid commencement address that was inspiring for our graduates and all of us who were in attendance. So we're excited about the direction we're headed in, and the school is broadening out in a way that is consistent with the kind of work and vision of our founders, who started not only a church, but have been pioneers in establishing a wide range of non-governmental organizations and businesses and a whole range of endeavors that aim at the ultimate goal of establishing a world of lasting and universal peace. And we feel at HJI we are playing a key role in that, in raising up talent, engaging in the necessary capacity building aspects that allow our movement and those from other faiths who attend HJI to make impact on the world. So a lot of exciting things, and I hope those of you who've come here will seriously consider enrolling in a course. Dean Boyd mentioned the course that I'll be teaching. It's really a course that will look at how Christianity over the many centuries has thought about other religions, other faiths, how Jesus thought about the Greco-Roman world that he was, that was part of the context that he carried out his ministry in, and how we as unificationists think about other faiths and the status of their founders and their views of salvation and enlightenment and so forth. I think it'll be an exciting course. But let me move on now to introduce you to the stars of tonight's program. We have two wonderful students, Mr. James Edgerly, who I've known for a long time, and he's a long time associated with our movement. I remember that when our beloved administrator, Dr. Edwin Ah, passed away a few years ago, that Jim spoke at the Songhua, and I learned more about his background and when he came to know the movement, and it was quite inspiring to see how a young person met our movement and how such a person has had an amazing life and family. But he's emerged as quite a significant scholar who has caught the eye of our faculty and was very important in the recent Research Day program. And the other student is a recent graduate, as recent as May 25th, just a few weeks ago. I had known Bruna Allen when we worked together in the area of interfaith activity going back into the late 80s and early 90s. And she was a tremendous help in that very, very important work. And then we each moved on in different directions. And lo and behold, when I came to HJI, I come to see her as a student. And then we had an international conference just April, 3 months ago. And she was a featured speaker on the topic of Christology and gave a magnificent presentation. So we're going to hear from these two students, and I'm going to interview them. And if I may, I'm going to ask each of them a series of questions. And first, we'll spotlight Jim Edgerly, and then I'll turn to Bruna and take about 10 minutes with each of them. So if I may, Jim, and I don't know, Dean Boyd, you may want to spotlight both Jim Edgerly and Bruna Allen at this point. And so, Jim, I'm going to start out just asking you if you would just say a little bit about your background as a person and your journey.
Okay. All right. Well, I had this profound rebirth experience when I was a college student, way back in my early years, and I was left school and had some very, very serious spiritual training. And then after that, I was very blessed to go out and get a world-class education, including a degree in political philosophy, and a degree in business management. And I proceeded to have a pretty significant business career, actually international. I developed an expertise in restructuring dying companies and bringing them back to life. I did that all over the place and did well for my investors. And but at the same time, during that career, I maintained an active ministry involvement, including being pastor and a central one of the central ministry leaders in the Boston church throughout most of my career. So I never really left ministry at all. I've always had what we call a dual vocation, and I'm very grateful to have left one of those vocations behind. The business part, I kind of got done what I wanted to do, and now I'm focusing on more centrally now on my ministry career, which is what's brought me to, as it turned out, to HJI.
Now, I think you have a family too.
Yeah, I have my wife and I have been married for 42 years, and we have 4 kids. They're all married. They all have kids, and we have almost 7. We're going to have our 7th grandchild soon. So I think pretty soon we'll have 17 people in our family, and we do make an effort to spend quite a bit of time together several times a year. We have a pretty busy family schedule year round. So
good for you.
Yeah.
Now, what attracted you to HJI? How did you get involved with HJI?
Well, I think you can blame Dr. Thomas Ward for that. I'm pretty sure. When I started doing my work in retirement, I wanted to really make a contribution to unification ideas, and I began doing a lot of research about starting 5 years ago in U.S. history and providential history. And in the context of that research, which is still ongoing, I stayed in touch with Dr. Ward, and he sort of convinced me that to really do this seriously, you need to be in the right environment. You need to have academic peers. You need to be in a scholarly world where you're getting new ideas and your ideas are getting tested and you're sharpening your saw. And I realized that I really couldn't accomplish my objectives with my project, which is called Higher Purpose Forum, without being in the right academic environment. And so it was a pretty obvious move for me to at least try to get involved with the HJI with the idea of eventually getting a doctoral degree. So I signed up on a test basis for my first semester. I took 2 courses 5 semesters ago, and that's where I started. I got hooked pretty quickly.
Well, of course, I've very much enjoyed attending and partnering with you on a number of the programs of Higher Purpose Forum, which have been fantastic. And additionally, you helped us immensely with the recent international conference that we convened April 11th through 13th. You've been working, among many other things, on a project called Economic Democracy and how to create a more just economic system. And you recently made an excellent presentation on Research Day that kind of shows the aspiration you have to really be a broad thinker that understands the wide spectrum and range of areas that are necessary if we are to build this world of peace. So if you would, it's a lot we can say, but maybe in 3 to 4 minutes, say a little bit about your research interests and maybe touch on a couple of the courses that have stood out in your time thus far at HJI.
Yeah, I sort of misjudged HJI when it got started. I kind of thought that I would just go through it and get my doctoral because I needed, it wasn't. I wasn't really that thoughtful about what the consequences would be of the coursework. But actually, it turns out that the coursework and the relationship with the professors, the faculty who I've been studying with, has sort of had a profound impact on my research project, which is again called Higher Purpose Forum. So it turns out that the class material, the content, has directly led to my research interest. So it's sort of broadened and deepened the original motivation for coming here. So I've taken 5 courses now. I've been very fortunate to have one article published in the Journal of Unification Studies, which has now got 1,000 visits. It's on the post-Protestant thesis of Christianity. I'm hoping to have a second article in the next edition, but my first one kind of got thrown out by Dr. Wilson, so I'm going to try again. And then also, I've been able to work with professors at HJI on developing these sessions, which we've had for Higher Purpose Forum, which are now doing Higher Purpose Forum and HJI are now are co-sponsoring these meetings, and we've actually had 13 meetings together. Most of those meetings, the speakers have been faculty members of HJI. We've talked about the unity of science and religion. We've talked about economic democracy, as you mentioned. We've talked about U.S. providential history. We've talked about racial integration. These are the kind of topic areas of this research we're doing. And so I kind of feel like I came to HJI at the right time because HJI is sort of broadening its purview of its areas of interest. And these are the very areas of interest that are important to me and will become very relevant if and when I ever get to writing my doctoral thesis. So that's sort of I have participated in 2 research days, and the most recent research day I came in 3rd place, which I was very happy about. Unfortunately, Giorgio, who's with us tonight, beat me, so I'm gonna have to.
That Giorgio.
Jeez. Anyways, I'm trying to get over that.
Competition.
Right. So I've been very engaged with the HJI faculty since arriving, way more than I thought I would be. And I would absolutely recommend anyone who's here who has not yet taken, just take one course at HJI. I just dip your toe in, as I did, give it a try, just one class, and see if it doesn't turn you on as it did me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And I really appreciate what you said also. I've encountered some who kind of approach education as with an inordinate focus on what you might call resume and status. And that's fine. But I think what happens at HJI and what needs to happen is you move from that kind of more external and I dare say superficial sense of mission and purpose to a deeper appreciation for the substance of knowledge acquisition and learning. And that gradually overwhelms the aspiration for greater status. I want to be recognized. That's very important. But actually, the recognition that comes on the foundation of substance is much greater than having degrees that were kind of earned, but without a deep engagement with content. So I like that aspect of what you've shared tonight. So thank you. I want to turn to our recent graduate who I referred to earlier, Bruna Allen. And Bruna, of course, I know you from years ago, but I think our audience would, as we start out, I'll go through this more or less the same series of 3 questions, starting out with just asking you to say a little bit about yourself.
Right. Well, thank you. Well, I would say about myself that I belong to the club of the lifelong learners. It's a pretty large club. It's where we learn from one another. And especially I filled many roles in my church, Unification Church, throughout my life. And I had many revealing and heartening moments, not by chance, I believe, but rather really by God's grace. I started as a missionary in my 20s, coming to New York from Milan, Italy. I was with the Newsworld tabloid, with Causa, and I had the pleasure to serve under Dr. Walsh in the International Religious Foundation. And I taught Sunday school to first and second graders for 10 years. And I supported during that time also the Women's Federation for World Peace. And I continue to do so. And at the same time, I also worked for 20 years in the public education system. And I held first administrative supported positions. And after graduating with my BA in liberal studies with a minor in human development, I started teaching full-time as an educator for adults for about 10 years. My students came from all corners of the earth and were mostly Christians, and a larger number of Muslims year over year. I regarded my role more than a job, actually rather a mission, because during all those years in public education, I had to put up with an arid environment, spiritually speaking, because the understood code was that any topic that made any reference to religion were taboo. But I was a rebel teacher, and I took time to talk about my faith to my students and to alert them about secular trends afflicting the American society. Then 7 years ago, another calling came, caring for my first granddaughter. So I gladly retired to care for her. But when my daughter-in-law became a stay-at-home mom 3 years later, I finally started my new life as a student again myself in 2021, and I joined HJI. So that's my story. Oops, I can't hear
You're
you.
muted, Dr. Walsh.
Thank you. Sometimes I'm more effective speaking with the mute on, but maybe just elaborate a little bit just on this turn of events or an opportunity presented itself in terms of your life journey and what drew you to study at HJI.
Well, while I was in the public education system, I started feeling really a growing thirst for greater intellectual challenge. And so I craved to be immersed in an environment that would enrich and deepen my knowledge of my faith, that of the other religions. I was curious and I wanted to know more, and also philosophy that I had not had the chance to really delve in depth into. And so I rejoiced when I heard HJI has started offering online degrees. And I'm happy to say that at HJI, HJI has allowed me to bathe in an atmosphere of not only intellectual, but also spiritual stimulation. And I've had some unexpected but welcome aha moments from both the academic content and from the open, energizing exchanges of personal inspirations and insights with my fellow classmates. It has been very refreshing. Well, I should say it was, because I graduated. And I'm sorry about that. I would like to continue, but we'll see about that. And
Good.
I must add that it also has reopened for me an old door that had kept shut for a number of years, the opportunity of researching and writing. That is a passion of mine because it means more to me than just enriching my own knowledge. It gives me joy to convey what is significant and vital for others to reflect upon as well. And since I've been a graduate student, I've been able to publish something. Yes.
Well, Bruno, one highlight that I not only did I hear you at graduation, be one of the 3 graduates chosen to speak to all those who were gathered, but also you were a featured panelist in the session that Dr. Theodore Shimio, our professor of theology, organized on the topic of Christology and women. It's a key topic as we learn more from Dr. HJI Moon, our founder, true mother, and talking about where we've had the only begotten Son, and that we've had Adam and Eve. There is a theology also needed for the only begotten daughter. Now, that wasn't the whole focus of that session, but it was more broadly on Christology and women, and that did emerge as a key area of research. Now, I'm not saying you should limit your comments, but I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about maybe some of the areas. Your master's degree is in religious studies broadly, and I know you did do some study of the work of Rosemary Radford Ruther, a major Roman Catholic, I believe, feminist theologian who was introducing novel, innovative, and at that time very radical ideas into a theological world that had few voices of women theologians. Dr. Young-Eun Kim being an exception, but say a little bit about your research.
Well, actually, when I took the systematic theology course with Dr. Shimio a couple of years earlier, I chose for my term paper the topic of religious feminism, and I did talk about radical takes on Christology. And it had been a topic that it had not really gotten expanded enough during the course. So I was very curious. I wanted to know more. And I also, I agreed actually later when I gave a presentation for the conference with Dr. Rosemary Ruther that God is not just male, but female, as she presented in her studies. But that research came really by itself and was not connected to what I'd done with the course. But Ruther was very well versed in all scriptures, both canonical and non-orthodox, and she had therefore a strong epistemological support for what she declared. And when I wrote my paper 2 years earlier, sorry, I'm going back to that, kind of jumpy, I realized that all these Catholic theology professors, they were all feminists. They yes, had understanding about Christ being a male, representing a problem because it caused a patriarchal conundrum for women, but they didn't really have a practical solution to offer. So when I wrote that paper, the term paper, I really wanted to explain that, yes, they were right. Their premise was good, but they were missing the female side somehow. Even though they were feminists, they did not realize that they should have really thought of the fact that we needed also a female Messiah. So I added that part to my paper. And so I explained from the unification theology that the Messiah needed to be also female, and because God is both father and mother, created human beings in God's image, and therefore to have a complete salvation, we can't just have a male Messiah. We need a female counterpart. And so I published this paper in the academia side, and I've been told actually a good number of people have been reading it since then.
It's fascinating what your research, because it's built into our fundamental kind of ontology, the four position foundation, the dual characteristics of God. So bravo on that research. Well, thank you both. I know we could spend more time, but we've got a wonderful gathering here for our open house, and I want to ask Dean Boyd to join us at this point, and perhaps there are some comments or questions from our audience.
Oh, Dr. Walsh, during your conversation, I've been busily conversing with our participants this evening. A lot of direct questions coming to me. I've got a couple of phone calls set up for tomorrow to talk more in depth.
Oh, great.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put us on, take off the spotlights for a moment and go to gallery mode. So if you want to, everybody can look at the gallery mode. And if you have a question, you're welcome to raise your hand. You're welcome to turn your camera. Some of you I know were in the middle of the night. You may not want to turn on the camera, but if you have a question, you can raise your hand. I've already answered a few questions, and we'd be happy to answer any query that you may have right now.
Oh, good.
Any question at all about what it's like to be a student here, based on what Jim and Bruna shared, or any comments about HJI itself based upon Dr. Walsh's opening remarks, or anything at all?
What's the best way to try to be acknowledged? To use the raise hand or just to speak out?
You can raise your hand or you can speak out. We're a very small group, so we're all kind of in family.
Can the audience unmute themselves?
Yes, they're able to, yes. Yes, Dr. Selig.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Walsh, I was just curious, this name transition, how has it worked out? I mean, do you notice a change, the kind of students who are stepping forward? Is it different now that we are, a graduate institute versus a pure religious seminary?
Yeah, I think definitely. Thank you, Dr. Selig. Great question. And I think, this is thanks to True Mother. As I mentioned, at the time I was told, at that time, the translation came through as I should be the chancellor of this school, but that UTS should be reorganized as a graduate school, an international graduate school for peace studies. And I think, without going into this too greatly, we're undergoing dramatic shifts in the religious landscape of America and the world in many respects. There are many traditional seminaries that are facing unprecedented challenges and looking for ways to kind of reinvent themselves because there can be enrollment decline and budgetary shortfalls. There are some smaller seminaries that are closing. There are a lot of mergers and acquisitions. So they are creatively looking for ways to fulfill their mission. And I might add, Dr. Seligman, for everyone, that there's a number of seminaries who have sold off kind of rural properties that were in idyllic locations because the financial cost of sustaining those properties far outweighed the benefit to what they call the mission of the school. And they've often moved to smaller footprints in a more urban setting, as we have at 43rd Street in Manhattan, and say that our purpose is to fulfill our mission. And if this helps us better fulfill it, that's what we need to do. So we're seeing many students coming from around the world because of our fantastic distance learning platforms, the digital platforms that we have that allow students from Africa, from South Pacific nations, from Asia, Europe, Japan, Korea, to take courses. Dr. Dean Boyd will talk a little bit more about that, but it has also given a kind of a blessing by our founder to allow us as faculty to also broaden our thinking, even of the definition of religion or the definition of peace. So this idea that we are focused on peace and public leadership, we can see within our wider movement the use of the word peace in the name of Family Federation or Universal Peace Federation or Women's Federation or Youth and Students for Peace, or all of the organizations over the years. True Parents always kept that because it was a way to understand the mission of Heavenly Parent, the mission of True Parents, both as it applied to, let's call it generally the secular world, as well as the religious world. So it's really opened up our range of areas to study and research and teach about. And that's really created some exciting developments. And we're continuing to work on that in developing our curriculum and kind of looking at each of our programs, maybe thinking down the road, new degree programs, maybe a new additional doctoral program that we may offer. So it's really opened the gates, because it kind of took that initiative that didn't come from the bottom up, came very, very light, with a light touch, just a little sentence, and a world opened up to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Walsh. I think with keeping our time in mind to respect everyone's schedule, I think what we can do, with your permission, is I'll go right in now to talk a little bit about our programs of studies. And if anyone has any questions I have a couple of slides to show. You're welcome to put them in the chat. I will keep those questions if we can't deal with them tonight, and I will reach out to you tomorrow. I have all of your contact information, and I'm very happy to do that.
Dean Boyd, let me just add one thing.
Yes.
Although Jim Edgerly looks like he's about 34 years old, and Bruna looks like she's 29. These are people that have lived through a significant course of life. So one of the exciting things about HJI is that we have both young, second generation, brilliant students who have enrolled and are currently studying and are starting to graduate, but we also have many in their senior years who still have a lot to offer this world in very significant ways. So don't count yourself out if you're in your 60s or even 70s. Think that you've got another 20 years to go, and life has just begun. It's not closing down. And I think this will also help give you new life. So, sorry, Dean Boyd.
Oh, thank you very much for that. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And just take a couple of minutes to go through some key points, not in too much detail, but to give you a flavor, I hope, of who we are. Oops, let's see, that skipped ahead there. Okay, so I won't read this, but I just want to show this slide to remind some of you, let others know for the first time that really what the graduate school is about, founded as a seminary almost 50 years ago, is to serve both the unifications community and the non-unifications community with an eye to preparation for leadership roles in the mission field, in people's careers. We are an accredited institution, accredited by the Middle States Commission for Higher Education, which is the regional commission for the schools that are in New York. We're also, of course, registered with the New York State Education Department. This is a very important for all of you to know. The degree that you would receive from HJI is of the highest caliber, recognized throughout the United States and throughout the world. We're also a member of the Theta Alpha Kappa Religious Studies Honor Society, a national honor society dedicated to the area of religious studies. And we're on our way now to becoming members of a similar organization, which will be recognize our peace studies students. These are our programs of study. I got a question in the chat box about what our programs of study are. We offer a certificate in unification leadership, a Master of Arts in Religious Studies, a Master of Arts in Peace Studies, a Master of Divinity, and the Doctor of Ministry. So I'll go briefly through each of these programs of study. The Certificate in Unification Leadership is an 18-credit program. You can do this part-time, of course, and the area of the coursework is divided between 3 areas: unification studies, theological studies, and ministry, taking 1 or 2 courses in each of those areas to sum up the total of 18 credits. We have a Master of Arts in Religious Studies, which is 42 credits and is available fully online. In fact, our certificate program is in the throes of being fully approved to be offered fully online also. As Dr. Walsh mentioned in his comments, HJI is very good about offering online content. And we now have students studying with us from over 34 different countries. And in the past, when we would talk about the number of countries represented on campus, we would be talking about folks on campus, taking on-campus classes. But in this instance, 34 countries means we have students taking classes from the comfort of their home online. And it's pretty amazing. I've worked in higher ed for over 20 years at various institutions in the Northeast. And I found that the quality of the course content and the technical ability to deliver that content that HJI offers is excellent. So this is our Master of Arts in Religious Studies. You see the core courses on the left, the New Testament, church history, systematic theology, and other courses. We do have concentrations in the areas of public and nonprofit leadership, interfaith peace building, unification studies, theological studies, and we have a Korean language track also. The Master of Arts in Peace Studies is a relatively new degree. It's only about 3 years old now. We just recently had our first full graduating class for the Peace Studies degree program. These are core courses that you see on the left. This is a different kind of degree focus, subject focus, peace and conflict studies, conflict and analysis, transformation, diplomacy, and faith-based diplomacy, as well as you can see on the right side a number of electives that can also be taken as part of the degree program. Also 42 credits. So an individual taking 1 or 2 classes per semester can expect to graduate in 2 or 2.5 years, depending upon the number of classes you take year round. Most of our students, I will mention, are part-time. This is a graduate school for adult learners, and HJI is really no different from other graduate schools in different parts of America. We are students who have full-time jobs or full-time mission areas that we're carrying out, family responsibilities, and so most generally our students are taking classes part-time and doing very, very well. We have the Master of Divinity, which is a longer degree program. Originally 80 credits, has been reduced now to 72 credits. The Master of Divinity, for those of you who are in the ministry, you know that the MDiv is the gold standard for those seeking ordination in the various religious denominations. This involves also a field education component of clinical pastoral education, as well as a curriculum in theological studies and a curriculum in ministry. Finally, we have the Doctor of Ministry. We have various courses, classroom courses in spiritual formation, integration, transformational leadership, theological and ethical perspectives, and other areas. And also, we have seminars which are dedicated to help prepare our students for the research they would do for their dissertation project. The Doctor of Ministry is a 28-credit program, including an additional 6 credits for your dissertation project. There's 2 problems that we perceive. I call them supposed problems, but they're actually manageable. One is your time. Often our students say, I don't have time. I'm working full time, I have a family. And we know that that's true because all of us are in the same situation. The second one is finances. If you manage your time well and you get into a rhythm of studying, you find that you can very easily manage 1 or 2 courses per semester. In terms of cost, you see a comparison here of what I just did this the research today, Dr. Wall. So this is updated. These are master's level per credit costs at Union Theological, New York, and General. General is their most recent cost is from 2022, but it's pretty close. UTS is HJI is very comparable, very competitive in relationship with them. Our per credit hour cost is only $5.85. We have purposely, for many years, been very conscious of the need, particularly of our unifications community, the financial constraints that everyone is under, both first and second generation. But at the same time, we have very generous scholarship opportunities for each of you, sometimes ranging for next generation up to 70%, usually a minimum of 50% for qualified students. And we can also help you to finance on a semester by semester basis the cost that you incur with your studies. So have no fear. I'm happy to give you the numbers. And I think that everyone, once you look through the numbers, you can see this is doable. I'd like to show you some of the courses that we're highlighting for our fall semester. We do have a Korean language track. We have an excellent instructor in Korean language, Christina Miyake, who has received rave reviews by her students. If you have a minimal understanding of Korean and that's your interest, you're welcome to enroll in a 3-hour credit course given by Christina Miyake, which is fully online. Another very interesting course is a course given by Dr. Michael Mickler, our official unification historian here in America, History of Christianity 2. A fascinating course. Dr. Mickler is an excellent professor, very knowledgeable in this area. Another course being offered this semester is a course given by Dr. Andrew Wilson. who is a professor of scriptural studies here at HJI. In this semester, he's offering a course on Hebrew Bible. This is a course that I've taken. I found it fascinating. I'm a longtime member of the Unifications community. However, I learned so many new things about the Old Testament that I did not know, and the foundation upon which Jesus came as Messiah. Also, Dr. Thomas Ward, many of you know him. He's offering a course this semester, again, online, on unification worldview. Excellent course, a packed course. Jim, I don't know if you took this particular course, but I know you made some comments about the completeness, let's say, of the detail that Dr. Ward goes into when he presents his classes.
I certainly took it. You should know that.
And then finally, the course that I mentioned that Dr. Walsh spoke about that he's teaching this fall, World Religion and Encounter with Christianity. These are only a few of the courses that I wanted to highlight tonight to give you a taste of some courses perhaps that are of interest, but also to give you an idea of where to begin. Maybe a degree program is not where you want to go right now. You may want to take just one class. These are some options that we make available for you. So usually the question at this point in the program is this really right for me or not? Well, that's the same question that I had when I started working here at HJI about 4 years ago. I had been out of the classroom since 2006 when I got my MBA, and I got my MBA for my career. I needed it for my career in higher ed, and it was very helpful for me to advance and to have greater tools at my fingertips to do the recruitment work that I was doing for other universities. And so Dr. Ward, as Jim said, he's very persuasive. He said, well, just take one class, just take one. And I'm thinking, well, I can't use the excuse that I used when I did my MBA, that I'll be the oldest guy in the class, because we have a number of first generation unificationists in class. So, but I did. And actually the first class I took was Dr. Mickler's course on History of Christianity 1. And I was so pleased, so pleased. The content of the course revealed to me things I knew maybe a little bit about, but not in depth. Other things I had no idea about. The history of Christianity was really something that for me personally was enriching, but also has helped me in my ministry. And so one class led to another. Taking one class per semester at a pace that I could manage, I ended up getting my certificate in unification leadership. And now I've just moved forward to the next step, which is I'm enrolled in the Doctor of Ministry program along with Jim. And again, learning so much things that I didn't know. I've been a member of the unification community now for close to 50 years. And I understand now why True Father founded UTS and why True Mother is really directing us to take classes here to get our degree from here. So what did I find? I found an engaging classroom, truly an engaging classroom, very bright, very inspiring students. A first generation, of course, many of them who were my friends from years ago, but also I was astonished by the quality of our second generation students in the course, their brightness, their creativity, their perceptiveness in their comments. It has been a joy to be engaged in the classroom with both first and second generation students from the unification community. I found a very qualified faculty. I've taken Dr. Wilson's courses, Dr. Kone's courses, Dr. Mickler's courses, and others, and they do not disappoint. And they're at the same standard, if not higher, at other universities where I've worked in the past. But an added benefit of being at HJI is that we're not only focusing on the unifications community, we're also bringing in people of various faiths. So I've learned a lot because not only my students that I've engaged with, but also the faculty that have taught the classes are not only unificationists. They have been from Hindu background, from Jewish background, from Muslim background, from other Christian denominations also. And it's really refreshing and enlightening, educational to really engage with them and become close classmates in the same cohort, for example. So it's really been an enriching experience. So if you're not sure that you want to enroll in a degree program, what I would encourage you to do is just to take one class. I know that's a big commitment too, but take the plunge. You will not regret it. We're here to help you also along the way. So, sorry, moved ahead there too quick. I think I've been able to explain that actually we can help you with the cost, generous scholarships, and a payment plan. It's very doable. If you are able to manage your time, you could think you should probably take a class, maybe an hour a day. You don't have to do it every day, but on average, an hour a day, and you will do well in your courses. And truthfully, it's really, really enjoyable. And more than that, it's valuable. It's valuable if you're a younger person, it is a foundation by which you go into your future. If you're someone my age, around my age, it still is applicable. I have been enriching so much understanding what true parents are doing and how I can carry out my personal mission more effectively. So I've already dropped my contact information in the chat box, but here it is again if you want to quickly note it down. My email address is s.boyd@hji.edu. There's my cell number. I gave it out to a couple of our guests already this evening, 475-731-3076. There will be a recording of this program available on our website and then our HJI YouTube channel in the next couple of days. So if you want to go back and take a look at this again, you're welcome to do so. So I want to thank you, everyone, for coming today and really wish you well. Dr. Walsh, I'd like to turn it back to you if you'd like to make any final comment before we close tonight.
No, I just thank you for that wonderful overview that provides a lot of excellent information about our program. So I just encourage those of you on this call. I think I'm seeing a good friend, David Kessler, who's if he's still living in Louisville. Good to see you here tonight. Please take a course. We used to study unification thought together, and I see Bill Stoner and Robert Sattinger's on here, so I'm waiting for Robert Sattinger to take his course too. So I hope many of you take the plunge, give it a try. And we're a very engaging group and a serious group, but please don't feel, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not educated enough, or I'm not this or that. You are, and you're going to see things emerge in yourself that heretofore had not been as prominent as they will soon become. So I hope to see you in the fall for the next semester. That's all, Dean Boyd.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Walsh. One more point I make and then we'll close. I know right on the hour. Some of you may not have finished your undergraduate degree, and for understandable reasons, particularly your first generation. We do have 2 programs that you can enroll in, even though you have not completed a full bachelor's degree, and I'm happy to talk to you about that. So please, you have my contact information. Please reach out. We'll be happy to talk to you. I'll be following up with each of you in the next couple of days. So if you'd like to unmute or say hello to Dr. Walsh, had to drop off for another meeting, but I want to thank Mr. Edgerly and Ms. Allen for their words. Please go ahead.